Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Awakening with A Course in Miracles. My name is Craig Villarrubia, and I'm excited to be with you today. My guest today is Amy Torres, which I'm really excited to join with. We've actually been planning this for quite some time. We're trying to make or arrange for this for quite some time, probably a couple of months. So this is exciting to finally be here and be aligned and joined with my mighty companion, Amy Torres. We have some mighty companions in the room as well. Today's topic is the healed relationship from chapter 17, section 5, the healed relationship. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we get started, I just want to share a couple of announcements. The Course in Miracles Las Vegas conference is coming up very, very soon, in a couple of weeks or a few weeks, and I'm excited. If you are going, I look forward to seeing you there. If you have a spark in your heart and you want to go, you can still get tickets. In fact, miracleshare.org is raffling away one free ticket. So if you want to get in on this, go to miracleshare.org, or if you go to Facebook Miracle Share page, there's a way to enter the contest, and I invite you to join in that as well. So with that, I will go into today's discussion and topic with Amy, the healed relationship. As I was preparing this morning, or just thinking about what the healed relationship means to me, or my experience, what came to mind really is, in the past, as I look back, I start to recognize how in the past, many, if not all of my relationships really have been used to maintain a sense of separation, whether it be with the family, whether it be friends, whether it be my romantic relationships. It seemed most obvious in my romantic relationships, where they were in many cases really used to get something, or in family relationships where the idea of sacrifice was introduced, or I used the idea of sacrifice, again, to create a sense of separation or to block love. And so what I feel the Course is introducing with the healed relationship is a repurposing or a different use of relationship, for which we can come into the truth of who and what we are, which is whole. And so the Course asks us to introduce the Holy Spirit into our relationships, which is really just another way of saying introduce the wholeness, so that we can come to recognize that we are not only in relationship with the seeming partner or our family or friends, but we are in relationship with everything. And because we are in relationship with everything, we move with everything. And we're no longer in opposition to anything. And so whereas in the past, whether it be the use of sacrifice, whether it be ideas of jealousy, or whether it be the desire to want to get something from someone, those were all ways in which I opposed life itself. So there wasn't a flow to life. So from my perspective, or my experience, the easiest way to describe the healed relationship is really the recognition of the wholeness, the recognition of my connectedness to everything, for which I can flow with everything and be with everything and be at peace with all things, knowing that there's nothing separate from me. So that is my short explanation or sense of a healed relationship that comes to mind. With that, I'd like to introduce my guest, Amy. Amy Torres, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. I have a little laryngitis, but as you told everybody, we've postponed a couple of times, and I thought it would be great to show up imperfect and find out about the holy relationship and the healed relationship while the body is actually going through the flu. Yeah, but why not?
I love what you said. Can you repeat what you said when you joined this morning in regards to the flu? Because in many ways, I mean, we could make the argument or look at the symbolism behind the flu and the relationship with the flu. So could you just share a little bit?
Yeah, I think what I said was that Mooji, who is currently really the manifestation of my spiritual teacher. So I feel that Jesus evolved inside of me from a human to really just another name for the Holy Spirit, and then guided me into the presence of an embodied master. So I still am very taken with the course, and I also have this kind of graduate course with Mooji. And Mooji says, are you suffering your experience, or are you experiencing your suffering? Suffering your experience is to be in full identification as a person. Oh my God, I have the flu, I better call Craig, I should cancel, I can't let people hear my voice like this. Experiencing your suffering is really knowing, like, wow, the body is a neutral thing. If I give the body with this flu, with whatever's going on, as a conduit for the Holy Spirit, then it all comes out right. No matter what it appears like.
Yeah, and in terms of, relationship with all things, the moment we go into the thought system of what can be done or cannot be done, or that there's a problem because of the flu, that's just another example of being in opposition, again, to life. And so the peace really lies in the flow, and it really has nothing to do with whether or not you come on the show or don't come on the show, but it's really an attitudinal way of looking at the flu. As you said, there's a difference of suffering it or allowing it.
Yeah, exactly. And Craig, it's very beautiful to be more in contact with other course teachers and experience the non-judgmentalness. So in any moment, I could have decided, I'm too sick, I'm just going to call Craig, and I knew that you would be okay with it. I knew you'd roll with it. However, it just felt like I could walk into the other room and sit in a chair with a cup of tea and be here. So it's not like you should do one thing or another. You'll know as you tune into Holy Spirit more and more.
Beautiful. So I started to talk or share a little bit about the healed relationship in regards to the courses sharing or teaching. I'd like to open it up to you to just share what's on your mind with regards to this topic.
I'd like everybody to know that my dad was a school principal for many, many years before he retired. And I was a very obedient kid and a good student. So I have this compulsion to want to do everything in a linear fashion and understand every term academically. And I looked at the beginning of this section, the healed relationship, and it says the holy relationship is the expression of the holy instant, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it's getting too complicated. I think that Jesus is really just telling us that we have to receive. We can't just give, and we can't give as a person. We have to tap into the holy instant, and enough of those add up to the atonement, which is the denial of separation altogether. It's just the whole love principle. And to me, the healed relationship is the atonement. It's the wholeness that you mentioned before. And the way that we experience, so let's say we choose our purpose is to be a conduit for the Holy Spirit, to choose spirit instead of ego, to be a vessel for that love. The next step for our mighty companions is to feel the effect we have on them, or that I have on you right now as I allow myself to be used by spirit, and then receive that beautiful look in your eye, that little smile that passed through your face, to receive. That's the light transfer exercise that I believe is in lesson 121, that it is so meaningful to me and runs through the course in different ways. It's the spiritual principle that giving is receiving, and receiving is giving. It can't be one way. And there's a real surrender and vulnerability in that. And then I thought, okay, here's a sentence that I like, and it's not, we're not going to go in linear order, but if you guys are in chapter 17, Section 5, healed relationship, and you go to paragraph 12. It begins, the experience of an instant, and that's a holy instant that's being referred to. So I'll say it that way. The experience of a holy instant, however compelling it may be, is easily forgotten if you allow time to close over it. This holy instant must be kept shining and gracious in your awareness of time, but not concealed within it. The instant remains, but where are you? It's so profound and it's so direct. The instant remains. We feel like we keep losing the holy instant. The holy instant is the atonement, is the wholeness, is the dream never even happened. Where are you? Who are you? Or I would say, what are you? Because we're not the person. So then what are we? What is this mighty companion? For me, it's the great rays. It's, just to use a metaphor, it's loving light.
It's beautiful, and I like the accentuating, if you will, of this idea of the holy instant, which, the first line in the chapter says the holy relationship is the expression of the holy instant in living in this world. The holy instant is the word holy comes from whole. So it is really the wholeness here, right here, not in a future, not in anything outside of really this, what's unfolding right here for all of us in this experience. Has nothing to do with the words even that I'm saying, has nothing to do with who's on here. It is really this underlying presence that is definitionless, and the Course refers to it as a holy instant only because it appears that we're not in it all the time.
Yes.
What seems to happen is the mind seems to go into its stories or its thoughts, and so to your point and to the quote that you just read, when we're in our thoughts, we're in time. So even when I have a thought about my relationships, and I'm in time. And what occasionally happens with me that I recognize is occasionally we seem to create scenarios in our mind about our relationships. So in our mind we carry these images of ourselves and others. And that's really what the Course is saying. You're in time. You're thinking about tomorrow. You're thinking about yesterday. You're thinking about what's going to happen. You're thinking about what you need to do. You're thinking about your position in the relationship. And so all those are thoughts that call attention into this imaginary world and seem to obscure the reality of right now, which is definitionless, which is this in this presence there is a receiving and a giving and a receiving between all of us, because there's this shared mind coming into this experience.
And which is timeless. So if we're not in time, and the Course says that at no single instant does the body exist at all, then it can't be the person trying to force being here now. It has to be the undoing. It has to be this opening and allowing. You could call it surrendering. And then there may be a profound holy instant where we get a taste of, oh my goodness, there is something other, actually something real and natural that I've been unaware of because I've been so contracted. The larger consciousness or presence has fooled itself into believing that it's a person, which is a contracted state, and that person and that person's thoughts are no problem, because when I tried to stop thoughts or like every personality, it became clear that that was never going to be so. But when I realized that if I'm sitting in a crowded restaurant with a lot of background noise, but I'm really immersed in my conversation with you, and it's just the two of us at the table, that noise just fades away. It's unimportant. So the ego will continue to chatter. That's not the problem.
Yeah, that's a beautiful point. I know for me in my experience, there were a lot of times in which the thought was I needed to get rid of these thoughts. And the thought was that I needed to fight these thoughts. And even in this section that we're talking about, the Course is saying, invite the Holy Spirit, which is simply the wholeness of the moment, and be willing to recognize the wholeness of the moment. Doesn't mean that the thoughts won't occur, won't be there, but there's simultaneously, even if the thoughts occur, the presence, there still can be an awareness of the presence that's here, because it never goes anywhere. The definitionlessness behind my eyes, it's not really behind my eyes, but it sometimes appears behind my eyes, or it feels like it is. There's something within, although there's no direction to it, that is always here. It's never not here. So regardless of the thoughts, and it's funny, it's interesting, because yesterday or the other day I was talking to Reverend Tony Ponticello, and he read one of the quotes, which says something about it is thought and belief that have the power to do X, Y, and Z. So it's not the thought, it's the thought given the power through our belief in the thought that obscures the truth.
Yes, it's thought believed in, absolutely. And belief itself has no power either, but in the realm of the ego, belief has tremendous power. That's such a good point that you make. You know, I just want to see if I can, there's something else here. This is exactly what you're saying, Craig. It's not what I was looking for, but if you just move a little ahead in Chapter 17, Section 8, the Conditions of Peace, it says, the holy instant is the shining example, the clear and unequivocal demonstration of the meaning of every relationship and every situation seen as whole. And this is why I am constantly saying, Father, do something with me. You know, take over, move through me. Because as a person, there's not going to be any real relationship success. There may be progress, but there won't be awakening. And then to discover that I and the Father are one, that there is no other at all. So everybody I thought I was in relationship with, or people that I judge, like politicians on TV, whatever, they're all aspects of the same one.
Yeah, if you just use the analogy, which has been used many times, and the Course also uses it, of the dream. So at night we dream, and within our dreams, for most of us, there are characters. And within the dream and in the experience of the dream, those characters seem to have a separate will. It seems in the dream that there is a relationship. So last night I had actually an interesting dream, now that I'm talking about it. Let's see if I can remember it. I had an interesting dream last night, and I was in a work environment, and I had a relationship with the characters. And in the dream I was in an argument or something with the character. Now, that was my dream, but in reality, could we really talk about two separate entities? In reality, can we talk about two separate entities when in truth, the dream, the people in it, the scenario, the objects, all of it were arising in what we would call Craig's mind as he was sleeping. And so here we are, there are characters, all of us for which seem to have separate wills. If we use that analogy, we are all arising within a shared mind. So in reality, we are, again, we're a relationship with everything, but not a separate relationship.
I'd like to add to that.
Please do.
You know, I'm a retired Gestalt psychotherapist, and in Gestalt therapy, one way they work with dreams is that you're the author of your dream, and you own every character and every piece of your dream. So when you relate the dream, you actually go into, you know, I am the carpet on this wooden floor, and people walk all over me. And then there's a feeling of, oh my God, what did I just say? You know, or I am a Persian rug, and I am very exotic and expensive, and people value me highly. It's like, wow, what a different take on that same carpet, you know? So it can be so illuminating to work with your dreams in this way where you're the bad guy. You know, if somebody's chasing you in your dream, it's like, wow, I'm the guy chasing me in my dream, and I'm me.
And that's beautiful, Amy, because it really highlights the course teaching or the course lesson that says God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. So everything we see is us because God is in our mind, because the mind itself is sourced from God, which is source of all things. So yes, without question, the reality is that we are everything. I think you used the word consciousness before. It's basically consciousness itself confusing itself to be trapped in these bodies or this image of
Exactly.
oneself.
The body is a figment of our own imagination. Or Alan Watts says that we're having a case of mistaken identity. And you could also imagine the one ego mind, the one thought of separation, has all the thoughts in it. And then each of us, aspects of this ego mind, latch on to certain thoughts that appeal to us. But actually, there are no private thoughts. They're all streaming through. And as Jesus teaches us in the Course, the merest hint of irritation is the same as murderous rage. Because anger is anger. Because fear is fear.
And all of it, whether we're talking about a little subtle disappointment or some kind of rage, all of it is obscuring the identity, is obscuring who we are. Because even if we're subtly disturbed, if we take it personal, we think we're a person. We think that we are this separate self, and that is the cornerstone of all suffering.
Right, and why do we do this? Because we actually want to play God. We just want to play God. It's sort of for the fun of it. I have some videos that might relate to this topic on YouTube if people want to watch. I think one is The Holy Relationship, and another one is The Mythology of A Course in Miracles. And it just shows how we're like a little kid dressing up in our father's clothes and stamping our foot and saying, you know, I want to be in charge for a while. It's just that after a while, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, the cost of it is basically the loss of our true identity. To play this game, we lose our true identity. And I just feel to mention also, as I share and say that, you know, as we play this game, that too isn't a real statement in the sense that there is no one playing the game. And we talk about the ego for the purpose of trying to kind of recognize this thought system separation, but in reality there is no ego either, which just really deepens or brings us back to what's true. You know, it's like this constant reminder of letting go of the concept and concepts to recognize what's true.
Yeah, and the Course talks about cause and effect, and I always found that very complicated and confusing until I realized that love is the cause, and the effect of love is love. And if we allow the ego to be in charge, then fear is the cause, and the effect of fear is fear. So if we notice that we're in fear in any way, or in anger, or in hatred, resentment, jealousy, whatever it is, then we at least can recognize, like, oh, I'm not in my right mind right now. No big surprise there. But this is a reminder I could actually choose again right now in a very conversational, very casual way, just like, Holy Spirit, help me. I'm sick of this. I don't want to walk down this street anymore and fall into this pothole anymore. Guide me. That's it.
And that awareness is really the once that awareness comes to mind, it's really over at that point because the jig is up. So just to have the awareness that one has been following this thought system, or just to have the awareness that one has slipped into this mistaken identity, is the beginning of the end of that mistake.
And that's what I would say the holy relationship is. It's choosing to leave the ego relationship behind. And the healed relationship seems to be, and I'd love to hear from you guys and see where you feel with this, the healed relationship is the effect of the holy relationship, that when you're showing up lovingly, then there's going to be a different result. And it's not always pretty. Some people get very threatened and resentful. This is why Jesus was crucified, when you just love them, because they feel themselves dissolving and melting away. And they're going to...
Well, I'll tell you, I just want to say I would be melting away too if I had Dennis's dog licking me like that as well.
Wait, I don't see. Let me see this. Aww.
The cutest little thing was just licking his face.
Aww.
And it's so beautiful and symbolic because I have dogs here and I have animals, and whether I'm playing with the dogs, I lose myself in these relationships. There's just like this total like melting away in the presence of these animals and the joy and the unrestrained joy. And so I just think it's just a beautiful symbol of what we're talking about. And I also want to just take a moment to invite anybody who wants to share or ask a question or anything. Please just unmute yourself and join in on the conversation.
I think she's an aspect of my ego that distracts me from course study.
Your dog?
Yeah. Whenever I'm reading or studying or intensely meditating, she wants to get involved. So she's just my ego fluttering in. And I'm attracted to her. It's funny, you always think your ego is all the bad stuff, right? You suck, you can't do this, this is going to happen if you do that. But a lot of times the attractions, the adorable things, the good things, a good relationship, a good life, and, so it's kind of a simile of that. That other aspect that we're attracted to that we all ignore, the good attraction.
That's so true. And Jesus says in the Course that we don't really realize that pleasure is exactly the same as pain in the sense that it keeps us separated. However, then if you catch yourself being distracted, you can say, Holy Spirit, use my sweetie pie, my dog, for your purpose, and then you can have it all.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, Amy, I know that you, have spent time with Mooji, and although this is this is really about A Course in Miracles, in truth, this is about the truth. So it extends beyond the Course. So I'd like to just invite you to share what your greatest learning is from your experience working with Mooji and also interviewing him, which that YouTube video is available online as well.
Thank you. Yeah, guys. I really wanted to share A Course in Miracles with Mooji because sometimes he'd refer to it and always mention that he'd never read it. And I just felt to share it with him, and also just to be in his presence, because somehow it became clear to me that he was an embodied master, so that he's the living presence without being invested in his person. And I really never met anybody like this. I believe there are other people, plenty of them, Gangaji, Adyashanti, Eckhart Tolle, maybe all of these, who really identify as the timeless, as the expanded consciousness, which Mooji calls I am. And the Course says, I am as God created me. So I'm ready to be completely undone, and it's really all that interests me. I take pleasure in other things, but I just felt very guided several times to go to Portugal, to go to London, to pick up and go when, ego said it's too expensive, it's too much trouble, you'll get sick on the airplane, whatever, and really ended up in Mooji's presence quite a bit, knowing that it doesn't matter if I understand a word he says. All that matters is that I'm in the energy field of a being who sees me as whole. And he demonstrates it, you guys. I mean, he's with you so personally when you're standing at the microphone or sitting next to him. And it begins to be clear that everybody is treated the same. His daughter, everybody. He's warm. He's a different kind of guru. There are many gurus who can be severe or who can be provocative. Mooji is more, he's like loving you to death. And he's very inviting of people who are upset or angry. He's proven himself to me in that way, that he's remained calm, that he's invited them to come closer when they're standing at the back of the room, you know, waving their hands around and saying, this is not working. But the main thing is that he's got a personality. He absolutely says, you know, look, I have a tummy, I like to eat sugar and drink Coca-Cola, I'm not perfect, which proves that you don't have to attain some kind of physical perfection to recognize what you already are. And to be around him is to be directly invited to recognize what you are and to drop everything else.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I certainly enjoy watching his live broadcasts over the last couple of weeks that he's been doing, and for anybody who's interested, they can watch it. Go to Mooji.com, I think, or Mooji TV. I'm sure you'll find it. But
yeah, Mooji.org or Mooji.tv. And another course teacher, Bill Free, is also a devotee of Mooji, and Bill and I speak once a month and kind of integrate the whole conversation, similar to what we're doing now, if it appeals to you.
Yeah, and I think that what Mooji and many people, as you had pointed out, especially from the non-dual teachings, point to is really what the Course is pointing to in a very direct way. So it is a lot less symbols to just say that our truth is not in this person we believe ourselves to be, and the recognition of that doesn't require time, which, incidentally, the Course says the same thing. It doesn't require time to come into truth. Truth is recognized here and now, and
In fact,
it is basically...
finish your thought.
Go ahead.
In fact, Mooji uses a lot of exact phrases from the Course. So he is a living entity that just brings the Course alive. He's saying the same thing, as you say. You know, there's only one thing, and it's easy to remain a person when doing A Course in Miracles because you can take the lessons to be directed to you personally, and there's a time and place for that. But at a certain point, Jesus talks about generalization, where you use all those specifics to reach a point where you just generalize. So, for instance, you know, I, years ago, might have given every detail of the flu to Jesus. You know, I give you my runny nose, I give you my sore throat, I give you my fear about whatever. And now, you know, it's just like, yes, I'm sick, and I'm really not interested in it. You know, go forth and talk to Craig. That's it. You know? So...
That's beautiful, because the freedom is not about the specifics. The freedom is in the acceptance. To your point and what you just shared, it's like at some point when the opposition to life is dropped, there's an acceptance of life, and only in the acceptance.
Now you get me a little excited. Also, since we don't know anything, like a fever could actually be a burning away of everything that you are not. That's how Mooji puts it. He says, come step into the white fire, you know, of yourself, and do not worry that you will be burned. Only everything that you are not will be burned away. So we don't know what anything is for. You know, maybe I'm saving 1,000 years right now. We don't know. But this thing about not being the person, and Mooji is just hammering it home, just never letting you forget that you're not the person. It's a whole new way of living life. You're just being informed. And somewhere along the way recently, I started reading Osho about life and death. And he said in other cultures, I think especially Tibetan culture, when somebody is on their deathbed, they sit with this person and they say to them over and over again, the life force is leaving your feet, and you can never die. The life force is now leaving your legs, and you can never die. And they're raised with this their whole lives. I mean, just think about that orientation towards death. Whereas in Western culture, we're hiding death. We don't look at death. We're afraid to talk about death. Now there's this whole movement about death midwifery, you know, helping people to die in an honorable way. I think it's very cool. I'm interested in it.
Yeah, the quote that once when I first heard that landed on me, that just kind of solidified the meaning, so to speak, or the meaninglessness of death, is the idea that we were never born.
And Mooji always talks about the unborn. You are the unborn. You are neither young nor old. You are the unborn. So it's so true. It's just working at levels, you know, that suit you. If it's too threatening at a given time to just jump over to I am the unborn, then there's like, okay, death will come to the body, and I feel very afraid of that, for instance. Or I used to feel very afraid of it, but now I feel kind of intrigued, you know, and it's just another doorway. It's just another possible opening.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. It's just the,
He says, I think in the manual, he says something like, one way that people awaken is through death, but there are many ways. You don't have to wait for death to awaken.
I mean, look, this body has not died yet, but they're using reason. The death of the body would also mean death of the identification with the body. So there is, and we've heard, I know I've heard many enlightened enlightened teachings that would suggest that when the body lays itself, truth is brought back to the mind's awareness. So with the death of the physical body, also the death of the identification with it. So in one way you can say there's liberation in that. But that is not to say that we have to wait for that liberation. The liberation doesn't have to wait to the death of the body. In many teachings, including Eckhart Tolle, it is really about dying before the death of the body. Which is just another way. Yeah, which is just another way of saying, you know, renouncing the self-image or self-concept of who we think we are, and letting that dissolve.
Exactly, and then there's reincarnation or dreams within dreams. You know, merrily, 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 life is but a dream, where it seems like we actually have not learned a lesson in one lifetime, and we're going to come back many times before we are unwoven and undone and fully awakened. So the body drops, but that thought system is still hanging on. I just was reading a funny novel by a Chinese writer, Mo Yan, and he comes back as a donkey, back into his own family, and has to watch his family members, you know, having relationships that he used to have with them. It's really funny and interesting. And Mooji says that animals come to satsang. Some animals are just attracted. Do they understand English? They understand the energy field.
Kind of like Dennis's dog.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, animals always symbolize for me a presence of what, or a knowing of what's true. They don't seem to be caught up in any ideas of time or ideas of separation or any kind of judgment or opposition to life.
They're very forgiving. I have 2 cats that I adore, and my cat Gatita before, who died a year or so ago. Just what lessons, what beautiful lessons from animals in non-judgmental love.
I think you hit it dead on with the energy field, Craig. Sometimes when I'm meditating, especially in longer sessions, that go past an hour, I typically sit outside, and I have 2 really high energy pointer dogs in my backyard, and for the first half an hour they'll drop toys in my lap, balls, frisbees, and then by an hour I've got my little dog and both of my pointers laying around me just in repose. So the energy field does attract them, and and after a while, they actually start to absorb and share in that experience, and
Yes.
it happens consistently.
I love that.
There's something very powerful about using these animals as a symbol for what's true. I talk about many times the cows on my property, and they too are very sensitive to energy, and typically cows by instinct don't really like people, because they are the cows are hunted by other animals, so there's always this fear instinct and this instinct to want to run. So when they see people, that's a natural instinct. But the cows here on this property, because we've never really chased them, we've never pushed them, we never scare them to move. These are all practices that are typically used on ranches where they use horses to gather cows. We don't use horses. Some people use dogs to pull the herd together. We don't do that. And so these cows are very welcoming to humans. And so, but yet nonetheless, they are very sensitive. And so we have a lot of young ones. And the young ones in particular that are less than 6 months old are a little skittish. But I share that only to say that over time they've become more and more relaxed, and they're beautiful teachers when you spend time with them because they're so present. They're so present. They're really just there's nothing other than the moment in front of them, and when you're with them, you can't help but be drawn into this silence and this quiet presence. I was watching one of the YouTube videos, and one of the satsangs, and there was a guru talking about how the student came to the master and asked them, please, I want to be enlightened. And so the master said, okay, you want enlightenment? Go out and raise 1,000 cows, and then come back. And so the guy goes out and he gets a couple of cows, and they have to mate, and you got double. You got 4 cows, and then you got 8 cows, and then over the years, and he started to count. He would count how many I have, 20, 100, and then after like a few hundred, he lost count. And in fact, he lost count and lost the fact that he had gone well above and beyond the 1,000 cows. And really what had transpired, or the whole point of the story, is that he eventually came back to the master and he forgot how many cows he had, but he knew it was over 1,000. And he, at that point, having had so many cows and been so immersed in their presence and their simplicity, that enlightenment had dawned on him, because he got lost in the count and was swallowed up by the presence of these creatures, if you will, these peaceful creatures. So, anyways, I always think about that.
So sweet. I mean, that really is a demonstration of you choosing the holy relationship and then seeing the healed relationship in your cows. I think so.
They are teachers, to say the least. Without question, they've taught me a lot.
So touching.
So, Amy, you talked a little bit about your Mooji experience. You shared a little bit about the course. So tell me a little bit about where you are in your experience, your path. What's next? What are you working on? I know that you are recently a transfer to Southern California. Can you share a little bit about how all of this is unfolding in your path or your spiritual practice?
Yeah, so I feel like I don't know anything more than ever, and that I'm not concerned with that. It's a beautiful state. And I continue to feel drawn to quiet, not a lot of social interaction, and there's always a little more than I counted on, because I want to join a hangout or I want to be in Vegas. So those things are happening. And then when I returned from Mooji, actually, my partner Scott was given a great job offer. in California, and we really loved Florida where we were. We really had a little piece of paradise there. So, but we decided to go for it. Like, we're being offered something, why not see? What's not to like with Southern California? So that was a lot of activity and movement and change. And I'm not an adventurous person. I like making my nest. I like my routine. I'm not locked into it, but I'm a creature of habit. I don't need to travel the whole world. I'm really doing the inside travel. And so we find ourselves in Southern California. He works near LA. Eventually we wound up in Murrieta. Murrieta is just 10 minutes away from Temecula. Temecula is where the Foundation for Course in Miracles is, Ken Wapnick's foundation, and it still has a study group, and it's still there, and I've been attending, and it's interesting. I don't know anything. I don't know why I'm so close. Bill Free mentioned to me that there's a non-dual teacher in this area named Francis Lucille, and that he's very well known, Francis Lucille. So I'm going to make sure to attend his satsang. And it's been very pleasant attending the study group, just sitting quietly in the back.
Beautiful. I love Francis Lucille, by the way, so if you get that chance to stop over, I think he'll be a real treat for you. He's got some great videos as well online, and in fact, as I'm contemplating, and I have no idea if or how this will happen, as I'm contemplating my next movie project, he is definitely someone that I would be interested in interviewing for that project.
Wow. So you're the second one who's telling me, he's really... See, I feel like zipping myself in my sleeping bag and marinating. That's how Mooji puts it. He says at a certain point, just leave the world behind and just marinate in the newness of this beginning consciousness in recovery, he calls it. And it appeals to me as a psychotherapist that consciousness is whole and perfect, yet when it contracts down into personal identity, you could say that that's the addiction to the ego. And then consciousness in recovery is these clicks of recognition that say, wait a minute, I'm not this person. And then there's this natural expansion again, and I can feel it. I'm not really moving my hands, they're being moved. And then you reach the I am point, which is that first separation from God's mind, which is the power of decision, or the choose again point, or the right mind, I think, that the Course talks about. And everything is all good there. There's still a sense of identity, but it's a generalized identity of just I am. It's just the knowing I exist, I'm alive. There's no name that goes with it, there's no body, but there's this knowing. And then beyond that, there's the source from which the I am thought sprang. And Mooji clarified for me that that source, which is the wordless beneath the words, as the Course says, that source is pure awareness, and it's aware of itself. But it is not aware of what you're dreaming or the dream. That's what the Course means when it says God doesn't really know you're here, but the Holy Spirit is, bridging the gap for you to get back to what is true. So that was a big kind of shift for me, that I thought the awareness or God didn't know, it had no awareness of anything else, but it's aware of itself. That's the peace, love, and joy. It is aware of itself. That's the happy ending to the never-ending non-story.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, the awareness is, the definitionless, I'd like to call it, because it really has no definition, yet it has a simultaneously a sense of awareness and presence that, or there's an awareness or sense of presence that's always undisturbed and untouched by the thoughts, the story, the perception, what seems to be happening. And it is there that lies the portal to what is truth.
When we develop a taste for that, we redevelop a taste for that, then we no longer feel that we want to cling to the rewards, quote unquote, of personal identity. If we
Right.
don't have a
Right.
taste for that yet, then it feels like we're taking losses to let go of
Yep.
personal identity.
Yep. 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 That taste, the taste as you described for that will blossom for everyone at some point, because as the Course says, we are capable of much procrastination and can endure a lot of pain, but we do have our limits. And there's something quite beautiful about that, because it also infers that everybody's salvation is guaranteed. So whether that taste has been developed now or not, it will eventually blossom at some point.
It's
No one escapes.
so comforting, so reassuring to know that nobody is left out. Everybody must awaken what is so.
Yeah, yeah.
And Mooji
Um,
says, many of you want to taste the honey, but you don't want to be the honey. And I would just share with everybody, there's nothing wrong with wanting to taste the honey and not being ready to be the honey. Just acknowledge these things to yourself. Just notice, like, yeah, I'm not quite ready to be the honey, but I am starting to enjoy tasting the honey.
yeah. Yeah, it's all part of divine grace.
All part of divine grace. In time, it appears to be a process. It appears to be a string of holy instants. On the other side of the bridge, it becomes clear that it takes no time to be what you are.
Because we've never left.
Mooji says it's like holding up a mirror to you and saying, look. And then we say to him, what am I looking at? Explain to me what I'm supposed to see. And he says, just look. Just look. It's that simple and immediate.
Salvation is in an instant.
Yeah.
I want to invite also, if anybody wants to share or have a question for Amy or wants to contribute to the discussion, you're welcome to join in. We have about 8 minutes, and I will begin to wind down.
I have a question for Amy. Amy, are you in Murrieta currently?
Yeah.
I'm only about 20 minutes north of you, and I'm really interested in the statement you made about Francis Lucille. Is that something that's local?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for a local resource. I go up every Sunday. We have a Course in Miracles group up in Crestline, Lake Gregory area.
Okay.
But it's a limited scope, because it's usually you just get mountain people up there. You know, there's a lot of Course students, but I consider myself, an emerging advanced student, and I need more resources. Like I'm starting to reach out, and I'm having massive changes occur, and things like you talk about, that feeling of just wanting to curl up in a sleeping bag and bake.
Yeah.
I've changed so much, through the shifts in Course in the last year, that I'm starting to lose touch with my personality and other things, and my focus really only is on Course, and I'm getting to a point where all my thoughts are shared with Holy Spirit, and then I lose more and more, and the losses are great, though. It's not like I'm losing something. I'm shedding. It's more of a shedding out, the Course process type of phenomena. But I want to be exposed to more Course type of activities, groups, and things of that nature. So is there any way, like offline, maybe I could get information on how to get involved or with the Francis Lucille or anything that local?
I would love for you to get in touch with me, and maybe we could go to Francis Lucille together and compare notes. And I'm going to give all of you my email address. If you want to reach out to me, just write to me at AMYTORRES ACIM. So that's my name with A Course in Miracles at the end of it. Amy Torres ACIM at gmail.com. And if you want to share, if you want to compare notes, if you want to go someplace in the area, if you guys are near here. I don't know the area very well, but I know where the spiritual teachers are.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's my issue is I know the area intimately, and I don't know where anything course related is. And you would think Southern California would be littered with, but I find that, and I don't mean this with judgment, it's more observation of experience. There's a lot of course resources that are just skimming, but there's not very many course studies, course groups that are true non-dualistic, that go at the meat and take the course for what it is. But you get versions of the course that are more geared for introductory type of students or people that want to taste the honey but not be the honey. Exactly. I mean, I love that and I'm if there is really an I'm starting to get to that point where I'm ready to be be that, and I appreciate everything you guys have said here. This has been a good talk. A few weeks ago, I had a similar experience when I saw a David Hoffmeister lecture up in Topanga, which did the same thing. And it's like I keep getting these. I ask Holy Spirit for these experiences, and then here they are.
Yeah. And David, he's very shining. Very shining.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was amazed because I watch a lot of Mr. Villarubia's stuff on Craigslist and Michael Murray and other the Mighty Companion. I see them. Most of these people I know through video. I watch on my Xbox through YouTube and I have it running all day. But then to see David Hoffmeister in person, it's like the guy just about can see through your head.
Yeah.
It's that intense. But I have a question too. I had an experience. Do we have time for that?
Go for it. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So I was about a month and a half ago. I was reading one of Hoffmeister's books, Unwind Your Mind, and I finally had a shift where I started to understand that I had to share my thoughts with Holy Spirit. I finally got that. I read it a million times, but I didn't do it, and I always thought it was just a concept, and then finally it started to become practice. And I started to pick up a daily meditation practice at the same time. And while doing that, I had a lot of mind chatter, and I couldn't overcome that, or ignore it, or let it go, or just be there. So I started to do little chants, Holy Spirit, help me. Holy Spirit, take my thoughts. Holy Spirit, show me a miracle. About the third or fourth day that I started doing that, I had 45 minutes into it, I had this white light overcome my head to such intensity. It felt like, I want to say electrocution, but there's no way of explaining it. That's the only thing I could say was more of an electronic feeling, but I don't think there's a concept to explain what happened. And then things were different after that. I mean, I lost half my memory. I didn't really relate to anything anymore. Things didn't upset me. I kind of have this ticked off look all the time to my face. It's kind of relaxed, I guess my question is though, I mean, is that delusion or is that?
No, that's not delusion.
I don't understand those things when they happen. I mean, it felt like a miracle, but then I still have 90% of my persona that wants to deny that miracles are possible.
Yeah, I would say that it is a miracle. It's an awakening experience. And an awakening experience is nothing that you have to sustain, but it's a marker on the path, and it lets you know, whoa, there is something going on. It is real. Holy Spirit is moving through me when I request it, and it just strengthens your conviction. It just fills out your faith. Eventually, you don't even need conviction and faith. But yeah, it's worth checking and saying, am I delusional? Am I just stroking myself? But don't hang out with that because it's not serving you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's sustained too. It's like this is the one thing that makes me, well, I guess I don't need anything to make it concrete. But a portion of that experience has sustained with me since then. It's like instead of enveloping me and saying, "Hey, I'm real. Pay attention to this. I am Holy Spirit. I exist." It's like a little, a little chip on your shoulder. It's being replaced by a little Holy Spirit that,
So I would just
always
say,
here.
using language well to notice that you stayed with it. It's not staying with you, the person. You are now, in a sense, at the next level, lifted up into a new normal.
Yeah.
Of a less person.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you want to comment, Craig? My pleasure. Thanks for asking.
That was beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Dennis. Even what's coming up for you with what feels like a desire or impulse to go deeper with the Course, because as the Course itself would say, it is certainly not an end, and it even invites you to forget the Course itself. And I've felt, or my experience is that when we are inviting the Holy Spirit, what we're actually doing, although it appears like we are inviting something outside in, what's really happening is there's a willingness to relinquish the self, separate self-concept. So when we're making decisions, when we're in any situation where we're inviting the Holy Spirit, we're basically saying, take over. And so it's an invitation to dissolve into what is true. And so it feels like what you shared is a revelatory experience. And Amy's right. Those things happen, and they're great because they build conviction on what is occurring and what's happening. In my experience, it is I've come to recognize that it's also helpful to also let those experiences go as well, because no one person can really understand what is virtually incapable of being understood. But we can take it as a sign of we're on the right direction. It's beautiful. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. That's good advice too. I appreciate that. Because I do want to hold on to that moment, and egotistically dissect it, which is not.
And that's just it. And you see it, and you recognize it as you were sharing. You egotistically want to, grab it. But you have to ask, who is it that's trying to grab it? What is it that's trying to understand?
Yeah.
And then it becomes clear that it is the person that wants to, and then it's caught in the suffering. It's caught in the thinking as if it was separate from that which it's trying to understand.
Yeah, I get that concept.
Mooji says ego is like a squatter who moves into your house, and then after a while you start paying him rent. So. Yeah, ego is going to try and take over and go, yeah, I did that really well, and let's sustain that now. But just start to notice, like, oh yeah, that's so obviously the voice of the ego. That's it.
Yeah, definitely. I also wonder. I mean, this is where I'm starting to move into too. Is as I've latched onto the ability to share, have no private thoughts and share my thoughts with Holy Spirit. After that, through that experience and after. Now I'm starting to wonder, as I viewed that and experienced it, I saw it from the me viewpoint, and I'm starting to shift towards the viewpoint of, how can I see this differently? That type of experience, which I would think would be, the next, onion layer coming off, because if I experienced that and viewed it through a through the ego, small I, then the real experience, the one with vision below it would be, how can I see this differently, and look at it through Spirit's eyes rather than through my viewpoint. So I think those are the things that I start to move towards.
So good. Good, Dennis.
Thank you for sharing, Dennis. Thank you, Amy, so much for being with us today. We are about out of time, and I want to thank everybody again for being here and celebrating, really, these ideas of truth. Amy? I will see you in a few weeks in Vegas. And if anybody's in Vegas, come join me. I will be screening my movie on Thursday at 7 p.m. at the Unity Las Vegas before the conference begins. And yeah, come join me. 7 p.m. screening. If you want to learn more, look at my Facebook and events. And yay, it's Sparrow. Are you coming to Vegas, Sparrow? Just have a wonderful time in Vegas. I hope you're coming. If you are, great. If not, that's okay too. We'll feel you there or have you there with us in spirit. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a good
you.
day.
Thank you.